Vlogs up everyone, T100 boy here again. Just thought I'd do another vlog. What I'm going to do today is I need to change my front drive sprocket. And if you know these bikes, then you know what I've got to do. I've got to drop off peg, drop down the rear brake pedal. I've got to take off the clutch cover. I've got to take out all the clutch plates, the back plate, and then I can get to the sprocket, the other side of my chain, and remove that. I'm changing it from the 18 tooth to a 19 tooth sprocket so that I can just get a bit more speed without so many revs. So that's what I'm looking for, to change that. It only really works if you've got the bigger sprocket on the rear. I think it was a 76 tooth. If you've got the smaller tooth at the back, then it doesn't really work. But I'm fortunate enough, I've got the larger one at the back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a start on this, so I'll keep you updated. Cheers. Okay guys, so you can see I've taken the cover off. Just to remind you guys, don't forget to take the tensioner off before you try and draw it off. I should have mentioned that earlier. As you can see, clutch is in there, and you'll need a tool to undo these 3 bolts, or 5 if you've got the other model. I've made this little tool up myself, and I made these grooves the same depth as what I've got here, because I know that the clutch works really well at this position. So what you do, once that's in there, you can undo it, so when you go to do them back up, once you get them to that level, you know that they're more or less the same depth and the clutch should run true. There is another test that I'll show you later on when I get there. If you haven't got a screwdriver or something, they're easy enough to make. It's only a bit of bright mild steel. Another thing you'll need is 2 little brackets like these. Here's one I made earlier, and there's another one, and it's just to lock the clutch into place when you're trying to undo the nuts and bolts and various bits and bobs on it. You can buy the tools, but they're easy enough to make, and if you're looking on Do the Ton website, then you're obviously handy with spanners, so you can knock one of these up fairly easy. So what I'm going to do now is remove the clutch, so let's get on with that. So there you go guys, I've just taken the pressure plate off there. So you just need to make sure that you take out your clutch plates and the solid plates. You've got to keep them in order as well. If you're not putting a new clutch, you're going to use the old clutch back in there, the old plates. I normally use a couple of magnets either side and just draw them out, and then just make sure that you put them back in the same order in which they're coming out. Okay, so I've taken all 12 plates out of the clutch, and what I need to do now, I need to undo this centre nut, and that's where that little tool comes in. You fit it into here, it goes onto here, and then when you go to unlock this nut, it stops that from rotating. That's all that is really. It's the best little tool you'll probably ever make. While you've got the clutch off, what you're looking for is in these grooves and in the grooves in the casing here, to make sure that there's no wear and tear. You haven't got any digs in there where the clutch is actually making a burr on the inside, and this one's, I'm really pleased with that. For 42 years old, I'm well chuffed with that. Don't forget, once you take this off, there's a whole set of 20 ball bearings in the back, but they're not ball bearings, they're like little round tumblers. So once you start taking that off, this is going to start to move, and there goes. So what I've got below me is a tray, but I've got an old tea towel in there, just so they don't bounce, and then if you lose them, then it's a real flaff to try and get some bits for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and take that off now, and use that little tool. Okay, so I've got that off, and as you can see, there's the little bearings. Just that when you move this plate, they'll start to come out. When you go to put them back in, obviously you'll put them in at the bottom, and a couple at the top, and then that will just centralise it. And I normally put them back in with a small scribe that I have, and it's got a magnetic end, so they're just easy to put in, and slide it across. Just makes it easier to put them in and out, but you'll make your own way. You'll find out what's best for you, what works for you. So I'm just going to get that off now. Okay, now I've removed the plate, you can have a better inspection of it then. We need to undo this little back plate here, this little boss, and you'll need to actually get an extractor. If you've got a lathe, then yeah, go on in, make one. But for the amount of time it'll take you, you go and buy one. And just goes on there, well you know how these work, goes on there. Once that's on there, then you just do this nut up and that will just pop off, and then we can get this back plate off, then we can undo the chain, and then we can actually get to the sprocket. Yeah, modern bikes are a lot easier, aren't they? Yeah. But it's not as much fun, and you don't get to inspect what your clutch looks like, make sure there's no damage on the inside here. There's no need to take the stator and all that off of there. Your mag, it's, yeah, once you've get these bearings out of the way, this will slide across enough so you can get the chain off. I've just put the bolts back up here just to stop them being in my way. Okay, so let's get this off. So there you go, guys. I've got the plate off in the end. That's some sprocket, isn't it? What a rigmarole to get it on and off. But it gives you a chance to, you know, check what the clutch is like, check your bike over. And if you own a bike like this, then this is what you love. Yeah, it's winter here in the UK, so I ain't going to be riding this until another month or so. So it gives me an opportunity to look at this. So I'm going to take this off and change it round. Then I'll show you one or two tips just to watch out for when you're putting the whole thing back. Alright, see you in a bit. New sprocket, nice shiny one, and as you can see there's quite a bit of difference in the two. If I bring that in, you can see there's quite a lot of room at the top there. So I've gone from an 18 tooth to a 20 tooth front sprocket, and it's quite a snug fit in there. You can get a 21 tooth front sprocket, but you'll end up taking notches out your casing just to get it to fit, or drop the gearbox out the other side, then put this in, then bring it through. So that's as far as I want to go. I don't want to do any more than that. So I'm going to put it all back, and I'm going to show you something that I've done with the clutch that somebody just told me. Robert T8 Triumph, well, what you don't know is not worth knowing, and he told me a little trick how to sort of resurrect your clutch plates. So I'll pass that on. I'm just going to fit this and get it back to that point, and then I'll show you that. Okay, so got the sprocket on, got the chain on, got the clutch outer clutch basket, it's got the rubber bungs in here. When you're doing it, just make sure you pull on these tabs and just make sure that they are locked in and located. One of the things that Robert T8 said that I could do to sort of resurrect the clutch plates is to use petrol and a wire brush and just brush them up again, and it just makes these little tabs soft again. Up until then they were black and they were really, really hard, but they're soft again now. Not, you know, soft, but haven't got that glaze on them. Another thing worth doing, because you're going to put them back, and they've got to go back in that order that you took them out of. I've got a little engraving tool, so I've actually numbered them 1 to 12. I've also put a little mark on the outer hub and the inner hub, so that you can make sure that when you fit them in, you're always fitting them in the same place. And if you're going to put brand new clutch plates in, it's definitely worth doing it at that point. I just thought I'd do it this way just to give it a go. But the clutch plates come up really well. I'm really pleased with them. Cleaned it all up, got all the little bearings back in, and yeah, I'm pleased. It's not the easiest job in the world. It's a real flaff. For all the gaskets that I use for the one behind here on the plate, I actually use 3 bond as the gasket. I use a gasket, but I also use 3 bond just to make sure that it's just got that little bit extra sealing on it. So right, let's get this clutch back in. Clutch is in. What I've done, I've just, as I mentioned earlier, I've got that little tool, so I've just put it back to that. Sorry about it, my phone. The spindle that goes through the centre, put it in, tighten the centre nut up until it touches, and then back it off 1/4 turn, lock it on. I just want to make sure this is running true, yeah, so it's not out of wobble. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull the clutch in and just kick it over. And as I'm looking down, I can see that's perfect. It's not wobbling at all. So I know that's running true. Let clutch out. Superb, that's what I was after. Okay, so I just need to put the outer casing on. Okay, so there it is. It's a bit of a game, isn't it, to do the sprocket, but you might as well do everything else while you're there. I put 3 bond on that gasket as well. Don't forget your oil plug as well underneath. Your 1/2" tension on your chain there on the inside. I torque this down the same as you would a head. I go crossways and then slightly, slowly, and then just nip them all up in that same order. Just me, you know, being finicky, but you know, I think it's worth it. Because I'm not using the bike probably for another 4 weeks or so, I'm not going to put any oil in here. I'm going to let the seal do its job while it's all nice and dry, let it cure, and that way I do feel that you do get a better seal on that. Just the other things to do now: check the tension of your chain, make sure your wheel alignment's up, don't forget your rear brake, and all those little bits. But that's that job done. I don't know what I might do next, but if I do anything, I'll let you know. Cheers, bye.